Good day, everyone, and welcome again to the St. Lucie County Public Schools Speakers Bureau. It is such a privilege to be able to come out into the community and share with you life stories of people in our community and their challenges and their life. It's a privilege because as they help you, you can help someone else. And that is what the Speakers Bureau is all about. It's about encouraging you, motivating you, inspiring you to go for what it is you want to go for in life. And we do it through the stories of others. So today I have such special guests here today. They are actually my pastors and my husband's pastors, Pastor Jonathan Ingram and Pastor Delores Ingram. And they have agreed to come and share their life with you so that they can inspire and motivate and encourage. So welcome so much, St. Mark Missionary Baptist Church pastors. And thank you for attending and coming as a guest, Pastor Ingram and Pastor Ingram. We appreciate the both of you.
Great to be here.
Can you start out by just sharing with us your story as a growing up here? Are you born here, or were you born here?
Yes, I was born
See,
in Fort Pierce.
I wasn't sure if you had come at a very early age here.
I was born here in Fort Pierce, yes.
Talk to us about what that was like.
I was born on, I remember the address, 511 North 11th Street in Fort Pierce. It was nothing but a sand bed then, a white sand bed then. It's been a long time ago. But it was called the Jenkins Quarters because about 3 blocks was nothing but Jenkins. They were pioneers in what we call the Jenkins Quarters, and that's where I was born at. And most of my life, early life, was spent in the Jenkins Quarters on 11th Street. So much changes took place then. In fact, when I was a little boy, on the corner of Avenue D and 11th Street, we had a big drugstore there. And candy shop and ice cream and stuff like that. And it's no longer there. And I hope that one day we will be able to realize that again on Avenue D in Fort Pierce. But it was a big family of us, but we got along real good. And the Lord blessed us. And here we are today to be able to share with you some of our childhood days, okay? Yeah.
So, tell me, did you grow up with both parents, one parent, grandparents? I mean, tell us about your life and your family.
Both families.
Okay.
Both parents.
Both parents.
It was 17 of us.
17 what? Children? 17 what?
17 what? And I'm not counting the chicken and the pigs and everything else. But the Lord blessed us because my mother and my dad always believed in the higher power, in God and Jesus.
So they grew you up in the Lord, okay.
In the church. And I'm not saying that I adhered to such a teaching at that particular time when I was little, but eventually it came home to me. And I really appreciate it. I think about it all the time. My mom and my dad, how they were such a devout Christians and believed in God. Because, you know, back then, if you didn't believe in God, you couldn't have made it, not in Fort Pierce. Yeah, but their belief is what you got to know. They had some strong belief in God and that He would provide for us.
So they had the challenges.
They had the challenges.
First, tell us, Pastor Ingram, if you don't mind, how old are you so people know how far you go back?
September the 10th coming, I'll be 89.
Wow, okay.
I'll be 89.
And you still run that church with a iron fist.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Wow.
It makes a difference when the Lord sends you somewhere and anoints you to do something. It does make a difference. And not only that, in order to be successful, you got to put Him first. you got to think about him all the time. You know?
And the things that people go through now, what they went through back then, you know. I can't tell me some of the stuff that African Americans went through back then that was so challenging for them. Because we need to know and understand that we ride on the backs of so many people, and many of them gave their lives so that we can have what we have today. And if we don't tell our children that, and our people that, they begin to forget. And they don't understand what it took to get where we are today and the opportunities. So talk to us a little bit about that, please.
It took a whole lot to get us where we are today. And like you mentioned, the fact that I don't think we do enough talking to our young people about what happened back there, but they ought to know our history and what we went through with and what we put up with, so they'll be able to realize what they're realizing now. Because there used to be a time you wouldn't be able to sit here at this table. I wouldn't be able to sit here at this table. But by being able to, you have to learn how to take a lot as Afro-Americans, and that's one problem with our young people now. They don't seem to be able to take nothing, you know. But we were able to take a lick and keep on ticking, and that's why we're here today. You know?
The hardships.
The hardships of life.
Our young people don't have it as hard today, and they don't understand. You're right. We need to be talking to them because they don't really get it. They didn't live through it. You know, I come from up north, and I didn't experience what the South experienced. My husband helps me to understand what went on during my era in the South. We were poor, but we felt like we had all of what anybody else had. We just was poor. We can go where we wanted to go. You know, you go to the movies, you sit with everybody else. But here in the South during that time, in the 50s, it wasn't so.
No. I remember when we could even go to the movies downtown. You know, we go there now and they celebrate it now, but we could even go to the theater downtown.
You couldn't even go?
When I was a little boy, no, you couldn't go there. No. You weren't allowed to go in that building.
Mother Ingram, I call you Mother Ingram, Pastor Ingram. But, tell us about your experiences in regards to back in the day. I know that you were good friends with my mother-in-law, and I had the privilege of meeting her, but she early on in our marriage, she passed. I never met my father-in-law, never. I just heard stories about him, but never got a chance to meet him. So, but my husband says that you were very good friends with my mother-in-law, and I know she was a Christian lady, and she played a big part in our conversion.
Yes, she did.
So talk to us about what kind of connection you had with her, and just talk to us a little bit.
Okay. At the time that my mother-in-law and your mother-in-law, Mother Mills, I was very young. And I had two children, two kids. And they
were you guys married? You were married?
Yeah, we were married. Okay. We were married. I'm married young. So we were married. So my mother-in-law asked me one day, she said, Delores, she said, me and Mother Mills and Mother Broxton said, we want to go to a meeting and we don't have a driver. She said, would you take us? I said, of course. I said, if I can get a babysitter, I would take you all. And at that particular time, neither one of them that I knew that could drive. So the first trip that I took them to was West Palm Beach. They went to a meeting down there and they enjoyed themselves. And from that day on, I was like they say, Uber driver now, I was their driver. And anytime they wanted to go anywhere, they would call me and I would ask them, is it okay if I can go? If I find me a babysitter, and I would get them in the car. And we would go, and I enjoyed those because at that particular time, I was just I was raised up in the church.
Okay.
I came to Fort Pierce when I was 15 years old.
Okay.
And at that particular time, my dad was going to Red Elm Avenue E, to the church, and I had some kin people going to Greater Faith. So I asked my dad, I say, Dad, I say, could I go with my cousins to Greater Faith? He said, yeah, Dolores, if you want to. So after I went to Greater Faith, I loved the Church of God. And at that particular time, Bishop LaFleur was our pastor. And all of my teaching that I really have, my growth, it came through Bishop LaFleur and Sister Magdalene LaFleur. I was young, but I was listening much quieter and listening to what they were saying and what was coming from the pulpit. A lot of times kids come to church to play and, you know, to sit around and on their phone. But I was the type of child I wanted to know more about the Lord. And Bishop LaFleur taught us well. He did, and that's how I met my mother-in-law and your mother-in-law, Mother Mills. And so I got with those ladies, and all the way there, they talked about the Bible. All the way back, they talked about the Bible. And I had so much growth. It was so much maturity in that car that when I'm going back and forth with those ladies. And when they asked me to go somewhere, I was ready. I really was ready and anxious to get the education that they could give me for my growth in Christ. And that's where it started.
And back then, when you say the education and your growth in Christ, there are so many different ways that we can be educated. Back then, for black people, there was no education at a certain point. I mean, outside of what your own family gave you. Am I right about that?
You're right about it.
And that it wasn't until a while later that the first school even came up here. So education is so important, and was so important at that time. I remember my mother-in-law getting her high school diploma later on in life, and how excited she was. It wasn't that she didn't want to go to school. There was no school.
No school. No.
For the African American child, there was no school. The parents had to teach them.
That's true. That's true.
So we come so far where now kids can go anywhere and do anything
they want.
and they need to understand what it was. And it doesn't have to be like that today.
And now they can have anything that they want, any type of education that they want. All they have to reach out there and get it.
Yes. And as one of my guests said in an earlier segment, how they made it over was putting blinders on each side of their eye. They didn't care what anybody said or what they didn't let that deter them. They had blinders to what they wanted to do in life. And that's how they were able to get through worse times. Pastor Ingram, how were you able to get through the worst of times in life?
I guess the worst of my time was when I went to Minute Maid. The first black superintendent that they had for Minute Maid. And there's so many, I had to work harder. I had to work longer. Dolores will tell you, there's a lot of times my counterparts, they would be home in the bed, and I have to be out opening gates and lighting fire for freezing trees and stuff like that. And it was difficult. But I've always listened to old folks when they say there's nothing in giving up. There's nothing in giving up. It gets rough and it gets tough, and that's life for you. And one other thing, you have to learn how to live life. See, it's not automatic. You got to learn, and that's a lot of problem we have now, and that's why I'm glad for you and the school board, trying to teach kids how to live life. But the main thing is it's going to have to start at home. See, I hear the controversy everywhere. My child can't read, and the teacher this and that. Yeah, there's nowhere in the book where the teacher is supposed to teach a child how to read. A child ought to know how to read when he comes to the teacher. All of my kids, Dolores taught them how to read when they came to the school. You can't blame a teacher.
thing.
You got to have time to teach your child at home.
Yes.
Instead of having him locking up in the room looking at TV and playing games. A lot of people, oh, he know how to do this and he can play this and he can do that, but that don't amount to nothing.
It does. It starts in the home.
It starts in the home.
Yeah,
Starts in the home.
and parents, what I like to say is parents are the first teachers.
First
it.
teacher.
And whatever you teach that child at home and you enforce that at home,
Yeah.
then the teacher hopefully will be able to take that child and work with them
Work with them.
during the time they work
That's
with
it.
them. But
That's
it really starts at home.
It
What are
does.
we doing at home?
Yeah.
And like you said, Pastor Ingram, we did the same thing. My kids were reading before they started school. And when I had my child care center, we taught the kids how to read.
Right.
And yet, we were not supposed to teach the kids how to read because it's called being age inappropriate
Yeah,
for their
inappropriate.
age.
Right.
Let them just play. That's the society
Yeah,
we live in
of
now.
course.
They
Of course.
learn through play. And yet, when a child comes from their preschool age and they come as a kindergartner in this school district, many of the things that they said was forbidden at that time when I had my center to teach a child, like they call them dittos, which
Right.
is the pages, all the
Right.
pages they get. Oh no, they're too young for that. But when they got to kindergarten, that's all they had.
That's all.
True.
That's how. So many of the kids are not prepared for that teacher from the beginning. So you're
Right.
talking about foundation,
Right.
and then you send them off,
And then
and
you
you
send 'em off.
you hope and pray they
Right.
can take off from there. But those kids that are most successful, they have parents at home working with
That's
them.
true.
Yeah,
I
that's it.
remember our kids, when my kids were small, I would have the ABCs and the timetables and all of that written out. And that would be placed on their wall in their bedroom. So when they get up in the morning, they see the ABCs, they see the timetables. When they go to bed tonight, they see the ABCs, the timetables.
Wow.
In the summertime, they didn't have that much playtime. I taught them all summer long. They had to read, they had to do timetables, they had to do math through the summer. So when they got back in school, they weren't behind. So if we just take a little time out, I remember my babies, we'd be laying in the bed, and I have a book, reading to my babies, about 2 or 3 years old. And they be laying in my chest, and I'm reading to them. And that's how I taught them how to read. Every story that I read, they'll be reading along with me, with the stories, the nighttime stories. I'll read some, and then I'll let them read some. And I taught them like that. When they got in school, the teachers were so surprised. He said, "You mean to tell me this child will do this, and this child can do that?" I said, "Of course." I remember one day we went to a parents and teachers meeting, and my granddaughter, they eased her in there with some 3rd and 4th grade kids. And I was keeping my granddaughter then, and her teacher eased her in there with some 3rd and 4th grade kids, and she was in the 2nd grade. And they got the reading, and they put her last. And she started reading, and the principal said, "Wait a minute, who is this child?" And the teacher said, and he said, "Is she for real?" The teacher said, "Yeah, she for real, and she more than that." If you put her down, when they get 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, they take off.
They do.
They do. They
They
take
do.
off.
Kids that
like
take
a
off.
jet. They
They're
take off.
sponges.
Right.
And-
It
and-
sucks it up.
My degree's in psychology, the study of human behavior. And one of the things that have been founded in that area is that you can start as early as that child being in your womb. You can read to that child.
Right.
And they say it's really good to read rhyming books, you know. And you get their curiosity while they're still inside because they can hear.
Of course.
And then up to the age of 6, they're like 6 or 7, their IQ begins to close. But if you get them from the beginning and work with
That's
them,
true.
you
That's true.
actually increase their IQ.
You do.
You increase what they would be able to do later on in life
Of
with their
course.
mind, because it's like building muscles.
That's
You're
right.
building the muscles
That's
in the
right.
mind.
Just like little sponges.
Like
Everything you
sponges.
catch it,
That's what they call
Yeah,
it.
little
Just like sponges.
And it does the job.
I know life
does
is
the job.
complicated now as a parent, and a lot of them make the excuses why they can't. I don't have time to do this, and I don't have time. But I've come to the conclusion that we got to take time out.
You have
And
to
a lot
take
of
your
these
time.
people we're talking about that don't have time for their children, the church people. But even the Bible tells you ought to talk with your child when they get up in the morning. You ought
Yes,
to try
it
to teach
does.
you when they lay
Write it
down
on
at
your
night.
doorstep.
Write it on the
doorpost.
doorstep. You ought to do that. Yeah. So I think it's an indictment against a lot of parents. Now, not all parents, but a lot of parents are negligent in the area of teaching their children while they're little, you know. And then how can you blame a child if you hadn't taught him anything?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And or you expect everybody else to teach them.
To teach them, yeah.
You know, the
can't-
school, you send them off to the school, and then you wonder, you know, what's going on, why. No, it has to start at home.
It starts
And
at
and for those out there that your child is already a certain age, you know, we talked about children as being younger and being sponges and so forth, and how that IQ actually starts to close at a certain age. You can still do things such as make sure your child is in a program
Yeah.
that will work with your child,
That's
because it's
right.
not enough for the teacher to just be trying to do it all alone. The community
You can get
needs to
help.
play part,
It's help.
and
That's
you can
true.
get help, because
You can
we've
get
got a
help.
place over there. You remind me of what we do with those kids now, memorization to the multiplication tables,
Right.
really working with them to make sure that they understand the work that they're doing, their homework.
of course.
Homework is important. A lot of
very
the kids
important.
will not do homework because they don't understand the material.
Right, that's true.
So to get
That's
them
true.
into a after-school program that is working with them academically, not just play, go there and they play until you pick them up. But they're really concerned about your child's education, and we do have some like that out there. But getting back to your story, is there a person that made a tremendous impact in your life? And if so, if you have a teacher, or if it's not a teacher, someone who you can remember made a difference in your life, Pastor?
Yeah. There's several different people, but one I really would like to share with you. When I was about 16 years old, I was one-on-one with the old man, kind of like on a farm.
Speak
He
up,
was
please.
87. I'm about 16, and he's 87. So I kept staring at him, just like you staring at me. So he says, young fella, do you have a question? I never met him before. That's for first meeting. And I said, well, maybe I do. I need to know from you, how in the world can anybody live to get 87 years old? Because I'm 16 then. I thought I'd live to get about 40 or 50. But anyway, he said, you know, he said, it's a lot of people had good hearts. The lungs, the kidneys, everything was good. Blood pressure and everything was good. But they're dead. I said, well, why are they dead? He said, because they didn't have sense enough to listen to nobody. So you got to learn how to listen. And that's a lot of our young people problem now. They don't want to take time to listen. Because, see, we've been this way, and we can give them some good advice, but they don't want to listen. But as a parent, and I had to do this about a year ago, one of my sons, I had to just buckle him down, take him in the car, say, now, you never want to listen, never have listened, but today you're going to listen. And that made a difference in their life. He called this morning a different person than the Lord altogether. But you got, as a parent, you got to demand that they listen to you. And because if they want to live long, they got to learn how to listen. And that's a lot of our Afro-American children.
Yes.
I have a practice of doing this. I get Willie to buy bicycles and basketballs and stuff. I go by a little bus stop there next to my house and I speak, good morning. And none of them will say nothing. or even the parent, anybody deserves the time of the day, you know, good morning, because they never know. I went by there several times. I have basketballs, and the one that say good morning, I'm gonna give you a basketball, you know, give you a bicycle or something. But you miss a lot by not responding to older people, you know.
Yeah.
And get what you can from them.
Yes.
Because
And,
they
and
do
we
have
do the
sense.
same thing.
Yeah.
We give out. We're almost out of time already, but we give out little treats to the
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
who are listening.
And listen.
Right.
And that perks the rest of their ears.
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
And you
Right.
know where they sitting there, don't nobody want to raise their hand and talk. Once they find that they're gonna get a little
Get a
treat,
little something.
everybody got their hands
Yeah.
raised, you know,
Yeah,
trying to answer questions and
Right.
so forth.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And that's a method. I know we shouldn't have to do that, but that's a good method. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. You got it.
Today, a lot of the children got these phones, right?
Right.
I do believe that if a child is not doing well in school and they have a phone, take that phone from
Take
them.
it
I've
from
done
them.
it so many times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
take
of
a phone
course.
and say,
I've done
you
it
know,
so many
and
times.
hold it until
Of
they do
course.
better.
Yeah.
We
Right.
started taking all of the phones from the kids when they walk in to save our
Right.
children.
Right.
They have to put their phone up.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Because
true.
you're not here to be on the phone, you're here for what we're here to give you and what your parents want.
That's true.
But we as adults, like you said, Pastor, it starts in the home
Starts in the home.
and in the community.
In the community.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And the
we should all be doing something.
Yeah.
Right.
Something to be a blessing to the community with you giving out those basketballs and different things. If we all did something,
A little something.
just a little something, the
right.
community would be so enriched,
It would be.
and our children would be better.
They would be.
Yeah,
They would
yeah.
be.
Go ahead, Pastor.
It's gonna start. It need to really. The church need to get more involved too. You know, I don't make no excuse for the church. If we could get more involved and learn, and then I know our time is out. But I was talking with a group of people not long ago, and they were little ministers, okay? And what they didn't understand, one person said, "Well, when I got my paperwork now. When you get a chance, can I stand on your pulpit?" And I had to explain to them, if you accepted the plan of salvation, when you get up in the morning, you standing on the pulpit. When you're at the Winn-Dixie, the grocery store, when you're in school, you're standing on the pulpit, because the pulpit is just what it say it is. The pulpit is to pull people out of a pit.
Wow.
And a lot
That's a
of people
good
now
one.
is in pits. I don't care, they look good and all like that, but a lot of people be in the pulpit. I get in a pit sometimes, and it does me good to have somebody with a good word to pull me out of the pit. So that's what we're obligated to do.
And hopefully, at some point in time, our pastors will come back and continue to share words of encouragement, inspiration, and inspire you, because that's what the Speakers Bureau is all about. That's what we're all about. We want to encourage you so you can go out there and encourage someone else. Thank you for coming, and we appreciate your presence. Take care. Bye-bye.